A call for help arrives online, and a team of investigators sets out. We know the pattern. A vulnerable person is trapped by an external threat, and heroes arrive at a dark house deep in the woods to pull them out. In this case, the target is Olivia. She's a young woman living alone after her roommate suddenly vanished, terrified by a stalking presence in the trees, an old woman who keeps begging to come inside. Crossing the threshold instantly dissolves the mission. The team discovers Olivia is a digital fabrication created by a combative man named Chad, who lured them out because he knew they only responded to women. Despite the deception, the investigators stay. Chad insists that, catfish or not, the creepy old woman outside is real and actively trying to break in. Shifting from a high-stakes rescue to a petty prank changes the internal chemistry of the team. Annoyance replaces focus. As the investigators fixate on Chad's behavior, their baseline situational awareness begins to erode. Inside, the environment is pure chaos. Investigators try to string up security cameras around the cramped bedroom, their focus constantly broken by their erratic host. Threat misdirection functions like a biological smokescreen. Surrounded by loud, high-proximity conflict, the brain tunes out subtle dangers approaching from the periphery. Chad escalates by breaking objects, locking the team's focus entirely inward, abandoning the perimeter. While the house screams with internal drama, the external reality tells a different story. One investigator steps away from the shouting and peers outside into the dark woods. He spots the stalker Chad warned about, but she appears battered and traumatized, wandering the property in a state of shock after her daughter was dragged into the trees. The old woman at the window pleads for help, issuing an urgent, specific warning that something deeply dangerous is currently out there in the trees. The investigators are now paralyzed between two distinct threat vectors: a known, highly irritating human element inside, and credible evidence of an unknown, lethal entity lurking in the woods. The two investigators collide over which threat to prioritize. One has seen the old woman and understands the external danger. The other is consumed by his anger toward Chad. Exhausted by Chad's antics, the lead investigator shuts down any discussion of the woods. He explicitly tells his partner to drop it, dismissing the sighting as irrelevant to their scenario. In complex environments, the brain often enters a state of cognitive tunneling. It ignores massive, incomprehensible data points, like a supernatural threat, and hyperfixates on small, familiar stressors that feel manageable, like a difficult host. This willful ignorance satisfies the need for control. However, by focusing on a petty interpersonal dispute, the team leaves their flank entirely exposed to the apex predator waiting in the dark. Exhausted by the conflict, the investigators turn off the lights and climb into bed, operating under the assumption that turning away from the drama puts the danger on pause until morning. The predator has already breached the perimeter. Without warning, a massive, shadowed hand strikes from the darkness beneath the bed, dragging the investigator under in a single, violent motion. Only in the silence following the attack does the mechanical reality of the evening become clear. The digital catfish, the aggressive host, and the traumatized old woman were all noise. They were entirely irrelevant to the actual danger present in the house. The predator used the household shouting as cover to quietly slip inside and position itself in the most intimate, physically vulnerable space possible. It waits until you fall asleep is a hunting strategy built around the cognitive exhaustion that comes from fighting the wrong battles all night. The most lethal threats do not always approach with a roar. They hide in the blind spots created by distraction, wait for the target to exhaust themselves on red herrings, and strike the moment the eyes finally close.